snackablementalhealth.ca, we have on with us the esteemed Mayor of Cobourg, Ontario, Canada, Lucas Cleveland.
Nice
So
to see you,
welcome to
man.
awesome. Welcome to snackable.ca. Sorry, snackablementalhealth.ca. It's been around for almost a little over a year now, and we're doing it. We're still staying alive as a podcast. So
It's so exciting. Well, I actually was showing some of your poems yesterday to my son. We were doing some poetry reading at night.
that's beautiful.
Yeah, you're okay. Thanks for the inscriptions. Absolutely incredible. And yeah, Rome didn't know about poetry, so he's learning through poetry through you.
That's pretty wicked. Thanks so much. I will put that in my resume. Poetry loved by 7-year-olds.
9. He's 9 now.
9-year-olds. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that dates us, doesn't it?
He's off to university soon.
Yeah, scary enough.
So yeah, let's get to it. I sent you some questions.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to be this to be kind of candid. I've got some canned questions for you.
Sounds good.
And I just wanted to really it is a the theme of Snackable Mental Health is bite-sized mental health education, information, and entertainment, not to be taken as professional advice by anybody in any frame of mind.
It's a really good disclosure.
So as far as Cobourg goes, let's get to the questions, these canned ones I just came up with. In community and leadership, what has surprised you the most about being mayor? Something you didn't expect when you first took office?
Well, I mean, if we're going to stick to the mental health thing, I think it's a great place to sort of start. And so I'll just let you know what I would say is surprising to me, as someone who worked in the restaurant industry for almost a decade and then did some time in oil and gas and then did my own business. I'm not, I guess, because of the people who tend to be in those environments, they're very comfortable with themselves. They've sort of accepted who they are, and I've really come to terms with both their positive and negative aspects. I guess I'm very fortunate as someone who's a little bit now, who's definitely neurodivergent. As an early child, I had to come to terms with the fact that perhaps my existence as an individual, while different than others, maybe resonates with other people. And so people's first impressions, people's sort of acceptance or non-acceptance of how I exist in the world can often impact what other people think of me. And so as a child who maybe had some difficulty fitting in, who had some issues around that neurodivergence in a time where we didn't have ADHD and autism diagnosis, we just sort of had difficult kids and good kids. I would say that I got very comfortable at an early age separating other people's opinions of me from my own self-worth. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
And yeah, you better in this day and age, you better like yourself. Like everybody better like themselves, because they're, we're in for trouble if we aren't accepting who we are as a person.
And I would say
that's a very big mental health thing is loving yourself and being okay within your own skin, I guess.
And I would say at 45, I think I kind of forgot about all the work that I had done at those ages of 14 to 18
yes.
to get to that place. It was just sort of common knowledge. And I existed in an environment, whether it's restaurants or oil rigs or my own business, where, how do I say this appropriately? Where I was surrounded by people who kind of had that same comfort level with who they are and didn't really care about what everyone else thought of them. And what I found in this role, in politics, as I interact with a lot of people in the public world and the public sector who have really public-facing jobs, it took me a while to realize that not everyone in these positions have done that fundamental work. And so what I've realized is there's a lot of politicians, and not all of them, obviously, and I don't know everyone, so perhaps I'm misjudging them. But from an outside,
I'll just step in. I also don't see you as a politician. Is that cool? Like, I don't see that. I don't like. I have a view of a canned view of what a politician is like. And
I think that view is very common, and I think that's why we're such cynics around politics. Yeah, I think I'm exactly what a politician should be.
Nice.
I think politicians should be people who are unabashed to speak honestly and directly, who ask very poignant and specific questions, no matter whether it's uncomfortable or not sort of polite. I think a politician needs to be comfortable in their own skin, and most importantly, I think a politician has to be ready to be unelected for standing for integrity.
Integrity is a big word.
It's a huge word, and I think you can't do the job of an elected leader if you're not willing to be unelected for doing what you believe to be the right thing.
And keeping what's the word I'm looking for? Sticking to your guns. So
Well, I shift position all the time when new information comes, when new logic. I'm happy to move, and I think that's also what a lot of people don't understand. Like when you say I don't resemble a politician, I would say that I've
for
been
me,
very
that's a compliment.
I appreciate that, but as I said, I think all politicians should be more honest when they make a mistake, own it as part of the learning process. I mean, that's the part I didn't get. So to the point where about the original question is, what's the learning? What's crazy? Well, two things, I guess, is one, I can't believe how many people who step into such a public environment with knowing that this environment is nothing but criticism, that is nothing but judgment, that is nothing
it's so
but
chaotic what you're dealing with.
yeah, and that's okay if you like the chaos, if you thrive in chaos. But more importantly, it's really okay is that you have to be able to say, well, these people don't know me. They're judging me on a snack bite sound clip, or they're judging me on this. And they don't know me as the person. They don't know my sort of hopes and dreams. They don't know my integrity. And so I've never allowed other people's opinions of me to really affect my own self-worth, which allows me to maintain integrity in the decisions I'm making. Because
that's a major superpower.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that neurodivergence creates that. And that's what was the biggest, or like, oh, everyone isn't like this. They actually care what people they don't know think about them. And it was like this big light bulb moment because I couldn't understand how such brilliant people that I work with, and I'm not referring to anyone here. I'm talking like I've worked with now politicians
in the past, yeah,
and all the way to the sort of federal level, provincial, and I'm not in any way referring to a council member. I'm just saying of the politicians I've had the opportunity to work with, it blew my mind because I'm going, how is this person who's brilliant not willing to make this difficult decision that they know is 100% right? And I couldn't get around. I'm like, am I wrong? Am I misjudging this person? Do I not understand? Like, how? Because as a neurodivergent, I want to figure out the why. So yes. It took a while, and then it was sort of this light bulb, and I went, oh, and I remember all the work I did when I was 15. I remembered how I got to the place, how I used to be as a teenager, where other people's opinions would literally determine the jobs, the people I wanted. Like, it was controlling my life. And then I saw this. I'm like, these guys are just adults who've never done that work, and they're allowing other people's opinions to affect. I'd say that's the biggest sort of learning curve, because it also allowed a lot of empathy, because I was like, oh, I get it. Okay, now I understand why these brilliant people aren't willing to potentially take a risk or make a mistake or take a chance, because they're not comfortable with that judgment if it's wrong. And that goes to the other thing, is that I can't believe in this industry how many people are terrified of making a mistake. Entrepreneurship,
that's a big one.
It's the only way to succeed. Like, people forget that the fastest way to success is to fail quicker.
Fail quick the first time out, and then grab it by the reins
and keep failing, because every time you fail, you've learned something. You see, we have a thing at the market, my business, and it was something that started right from the get. I always like to ask employees, what did you fail today? What are the 5-6 things that you totally failed at? And originally the employer's like, well, nothing. I got everything. I said, so you didn't try? So you didn't try anything new? You didn't fail? Like, how
I like this. I like this. I like where this is going.
And so what you'll learn, and what I've learned, and through sort of mentorship with some really incredible people throughout my life, is that the most successful people often aren't the brightest. The most successful people often aren't those that come from wealth and experience. The actual single determining factor, and they're starting to prove this from some studies following children, is an individual's ability to fail and continue on. That resilience factor.
All right, we moved into that conversation, but politics versus reality, I guess. And when people bump into you at your grocery store, the Market S'more, what do they usually want to talk about? Groceries or politics?
You know what? It's actually quite fun for me at the grocery store. I don't get to work there as often as I'd like. I'm very thankful for the team that is holding the fort down. Got an incredible group down there, managers and adults who just love serving this community. So I'm very fortunate in terms of the very small but mighty team. What I would say is when I'm in there, usually it's because the only reason I've shown up is one of my teammates has had a medical situation and or coverage is required. I stay
So
out of
it's self-sustaining right now.
Oh, I'd love to say that. What it is I focus on scheduling and management because my 9 to 5, Monday to Friday is pretty well occupied, which means the roles that I can fill in the business tend to be after hours. So, I can invest a little more in front end staff because I'm taking on some of the work on the back end, the sales, et cetera. So it's always about negotiating the team you have as a leader and filling the gaps that your team already have. So as the market team has shifted, so has the role, personality, and skill set that I've needed to fill the gaps of that team. So too in the role as mayor, depending if I'm working at the county, at Cobourg, with staff, with the police, whatever, or the role I have to fit depends on the makeup of the team and where I need to slide in to sort of complete that team in my position.
All right. Well, in your position, if you could wave a magic wand and fix one thing, one challenge in Cobourg overnight, what would it be?
You know what? I'm going to preface this. We literally live in the best community in Ontario. I mean,
I love hearing that.
When I left Alberta 10 years or 9 years ago with Rome as a 6-month-old, my ex-partner and I traveled the world. And we also traveled Canada for like 5 months trying to find.
You traveled for research for the Market Schmore.
And then we also traveled because we knew Alberta was no longer going to be our home. We would find somewhere else in Canada. Wow. And as we traveled across Canada to find and try different cities, both enjoying the time with our brand new baby, as well as sort of on an adventure to discover what community, we weren't even planning on Cobourg. What happened is on our pathway through to the East Coast, my parents relocated from Scarborough to Cobourg. So we just happened to come to Cobourg instead. And then we never left. And so that's what sort of started the whole ball. And I think it's really important from a mental health perspective is to really, while staying focused on a goal, the real opportunities are in the peripherals. And I think a lot of times people who are very driven, people who are very focused, people who are very sort of hooked on that, you got to do this for happiness. They're so myopically focused on that one goal that it's great to have those. You need those. You need that to drive but in the pursuit of the goal, often your best opportunities, your best success, and your best growth are just to the peripherals of the goal. And oftentimes, if we're too focused, if we're too
in that hunt, we may miss something.
You often miss the best opportunities because they're not usually the thing that you thought was the goal. It ends up being to the side. Look at this job as mayor. This would have never happened.
I can't imagine what that's like.
But it would have never happened had the market not happened. So the goal was always to build an incredible business that was zero food waste. There was a community hub that worked with some of our less fortunate, creating opportunities for employment and self-sustaining, working with some adults with severe autism who are nonverbal and creating sort of skill sets for them. And so this was all part of this big process of turning our food system in Canada to a more European market based again on the math that I predicted that our food costs would quadruple over the next 15 years.
Wow.
I can't believe how quick my math showed to be right. I mean, I did that math in 2017, 2018, which is what kind of drove us into the food business. And then COVID happened and we doubled our food prices. And since COVID, we've seen almost another doubling of food prices. So
that's unfortunate.
Well, what's really scary is that we're probably only halfway to where we're going in terms of food prices in the next 15 years. My goodness.
So no, there'll be food at every grocery store, but nobody will be able to afford it.
Actually, what I would say is the opposite is going to be true, which is why I went to the European market and their food distribution system. You see, it's not that food becomes too expensive; it becomes too expensive in our current business model. In Europe, you don't have 100,000 square foot Walmarts because you can't afford the food waste that a business model like that creates. You can't afford the labor. You can't afford. So food in North America is a unique, and the distribution, the size, and the scale is a unique thing. But if you go back 10 years, the writing was on the wall. Walmart had stopped building supercenters. You already saw grocery stores that were anything less than 100,000 square feet no longer being profitable. This is before all the labor numbers went up. This is before electrical costs went up. This is before building costs went up. So Now we're in a thing where, grocery stores make 1 to 2% if they're good. That's 1 to 2. So for every dollar, they may be profiting 1 to 2%, 1 to 2 cents. So when you see a Walmart that say does 500,000, well, you can do the math. It's actually not that much profit, and that's a lot of
Yeah.
risk to carry for not much profit every day, which is why it's such a messed up system. So, anyways, all this to say, on the peripheral, as I'm focused on this goal of fixing the food system, doing something incredible to sort of make up for the karma of oil and gas, give back to the environment by creating that zero waste food, that in doing that, several things happened in my life. And all of a sudden I looked and there was this opportunity. And I said, well, what the heck? Let's throw the name in. Let's have a run. Maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't, but what a cool opportunity. And then all of a sudden, here we are. And that opportunity would have never come about if I was only focused on just the market.
Okay, you've got a lot to say about that, and it's incredible. How about this is off my, this isn't even on my question list. You're speaking to me from an almost a Tony Robbins way. Like I'm learning.
It's a compliment.
It definitely is like Tony in a Tony Robbins way. Are there any self-help? I don't want to say Tony's a guru because he doesn't like that word, but are there any self-help or motivational people that you can drop? Any names you can drop in that?
100%. I've been following Gary Vaynerchuk since he started Wine Library 20 odd years ago.
Okay, I'm going to write that name down.
Yeah, Gary Vaynerchuk. I mean, he's not mental health. He's definitely going to hurt your mental health if you're not confident. And
he's one of those. He's a shock guru. Yeah.
I wouldn't even say shock. He's a hustle guru.
A hustle guru.
He's an attention guru, and he is a ultimate fail forward mantra. Get comfortable with yourself. Get comfortable at your strengths. Quadruple down on your strengths, and don't try and be a perfectly well-rounded person. Why would LeBron James isn't working on his fencing? You know what I mean? Like, he's not worried that he's not a good enough fencer. Or he's not worried, because he's focused on what he's really good at. The other thing I love that Gary Vee talks about is that what does actually success look like? Because he talks about how he's friends with many, many, many millionaires. They're all miserable and depressed and on drugs. And some of his high school friends that make $45,000 a year and live in the exact same suburb he grew up in are the most happy people he knows. And so here's a guy who's worth millions and millions and millions, who's unbelievably successful. And even now, he only talks about happiness. He talks about what success is. And then he's very direct and specific about matching your wishes and expectations to your own actions and holding people and getting people to hold themselves to account. I remember one time he was talking about a kid calls and he goes, oh, my mom and dad, they won't support me in this vision. They won't support me in doing this. They won't support me in doing that. And he's like, oh, well, why do you need their support? Like, why don't you just go do it? You're 21 years old. Like, oh, well, I'm still living at home. And, and Gary goes, oh, right. So you're not even paying your rent yet. You're not even paying for your groceries yet. You are living on your mom and dad at 21 years old. And I'm assuming you're asking them for money. And he's like, yes. He's like, well, then you're not an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You just have an idea. Ideas are not valuable. And that's what a lot of people forget in this world. Everyone has ideas.
Well, yeah, writing those ideas down and facilitating those ideas is a different story than just laying on your couch, smoking weed, playing video games, and having some ideas for some movies.
But not only that, what's really crazy is someone who has neurodivergence, who's constantly trying to narrow the numerous ideas that are coming through.
Yes.
Again,
I hear that. I'm here for that. Tell me all about it.
So one of the cool things I like to do is, you understand this, that it's a constant stream of new thoughts, new ideas, new ideas, new ideas. I've never been attached to my ideas. No, it's actually different. I'm going to show a different angle. Again, a realization, because I've had so many ideas throughout my life, 99.999% are not necessarily good ones or ones that I fall through on. I'm not attached to any idea because I know ideas aren't the key.
You're not married to them.
Gosh, no. And I also know that most ideas, while they might feel like a good idea at the time, when you actually do the work to sort of pan that idea out.
Yeah, you give up on it.
Yeah, like I've written 40 business plans before I actually wrote the Market S'more one, where I was like, oh, this might actually work. but I had to do 39 failed business plans
That's
to
amazing.
know that this one might actually work.
Not a lot of entrepreneurs even talk about business plans.
Well, that's insanity.
Yes.
And the reality is that's what I'm talking about Gary Vee for. Because Gary Vee goes, "Oh, you want to be the 1%? Okay. Do you know what that means? Like, do you
Yeah.
know the work? Do you know, like, you can't stop for 15 years. Like, there aren't weekends in here. You're not doing, your friends are going to a club on a Friday. You're going home to drive market from 9 o'clock to 12 at night because you want to drive more sales to your website. You're not going to the club. Oh, you want to go to the club? Okay, that's fair. But then let's readjust your expectations. Let's readjust what you think is possible. Let's readjust where you think you should be, because your action and the work have to match your goals. And that's what he
Where
talks
do you, Wicked, where do you see Cobourg 5 or 10 years from now?
Great question. When I was elected, I ran on a very transparent campaign. And that's, I don't know what I'm going to be able to do because I've never been mayor before. And the other thing I promised was I'm going to make lots of mistakes, because in the effort to progress, I have to make those mistakes. And because I've never been mayor, there are going to be lots of them. And my third one was I'm going to build teams, because the teams are actually what make things happen. So you talked about just previous question, what's a really good sort of book? I always recommend Shoe Dog Millionaire. It's another good one. It's about the story of Nike. It's the 26-year journey of what Nike did, how that culture was built, and the failures. And the third, well, I mean, just the owner of Nike was basically living paycheck to paycheck for the first 26 years of the business. And it wasn't until Nike went public, 26 years down, of which he had like 4 or 5 bankruptcy scares.
Wow.
It wasn't until 26 years down did he become a millionaire. Because every time he would spend $30 million in China, he would spend the entire company's money to buy an order in China to ship the entire 30 million. The company has no money. He'd sell every dollar of that 30 before he would then have money to load up and order 40 on the next million.
This is around the same time as the shoe revolution was happening, and Nike was Nike held the vanguard to the shoe revolution.
They also, it talks about Michael Jordan and the whole
Jumpman.
Exactly. And how, you know, and in this book, you also get to see some great things. And I'll just throw this snackable out. A quote I maintain nonstop, because people often ask, well, how the heck do you do mayor when everyone's criticizing, you're constantly getting shamed, you're constantly being misjudged? Like, how do you do that?
It's an admirable thick skin, Lucas.
No, actually, I'd say it's a mentality. And that mentality is that came from this book, Shoe Dog Millionaire. And it comes from Michael Jordan. And the guy who ran Nike asked Michael Jordan in their sort of first meeting, hey, Mike, like, you played just as well in LA as you do in Chicago, and no one's like that. Like, how the hell do you go to LA and play so well when everyone else falls to crap because of the fact that crowds are so loud there and they're just screaming? And Michael Jordan, without missing a beat in this conversation, goes, oh, I don't hear the crowds. I've never heard the crowds. I don't hear them cheering. I don't hear them cheering, and I don't hear them booing. And he goes, sir, what do you mean you don't hear the crowds? He's like, well, I trained myself early to stop listening to the noise. They ain't playing the game I am.
Wow.
What the hell do they know?
That's a big one for me, Lucas, is the noise. I hear the noise pretty much from getting out of bed till going to bed. The noise has been a big deal for me.
And what this, I can see that. I know you personally. I suffer sometimes from that. And what I loved about this sort of quote from Michael Jordan was the final line. He says, the key here, because he goes, how do you do that? He goes, oh, it's simple. You don't listen to the applause.
Yeah. Don't even care about the good stuff.
Because if the applause matter, if them pumping you up matters, when they're taking you down, it's going to matter too.
Yeah.
So tune it all out. Understand that you're the one in the game, and no one else has your perspective. And because
remember
no one else has
the compliments you receive and forget the insults.
Forget
if you
all
can
of
do
it.
that, tell me how.
I'm telling you, empathy.
Nice.
Ignorance.
Empathy versus ignorance?
Empathy of ignorance.
Empathy of ignorance. Okay.
Let me break it down. I have a degree in political science. I studied philosophy. I studied political science. I've actually worked in government. I've ran federally in Alberta. I know a lot about politics.
Nice.
But before I became mayor, I also know what I didn't know. So I never came and tried to tell previous mayors what they should or shouldn't do. I never tried to push councillors in one direction or another direction.
Yeah, you
I
have
always share my.
experience politically, but you've never been the mayor of a town before.
So while I would maybe make a comment or suggestion, I always understood that I didn't know anything about what he knows as the mayor, councillor, etc. When these individuals in the community come and they're complaining or they're upset or they're scared or and they feel like the system is letting them down or that things are being done, when I say empathy of ignorance, what I have to understand is they don't have the privilege that I have to sit in this chair every day, be surrounded by incredible experts who
Nice.
are constantly feeding me information to build my perception and my knowledge.
That's a great way to get by. Count your blessings all the time.
And I'll tell you this, Gary Vee, going back to him, that's all he says: gratitude, 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 gratitude. You know, the reality of the world is if you make $35,000 US a year as a family, you are in the 1%. That's the actual reality of this world.
Of the planet. Yeah.
So you read, you have flushable toilets, you had an opportunity to go to public school education. Those three things alone put you in the top 5.
Of the planet's population. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Like it's, and then when people talk about the 1%, well, what they're actually meaning is North America 1%.
Which we as guilty first worlders have to atone for, really.
Well, you decide.
I broke a nail is
people
I
don't
broke a
understand.
nail is a lot different than breaking or being paralyzed.
And I would say people don't realize what it takes to be a 1%er in North America. That's like close to $500,000 a year salary.
And that is dissipating now. $1 million is not the same. Being a millionaire is not the same thing as it was even 10 years ago.
Well, when you print out the entirety of the Canadian cash reserve in a 10-year period, if you double the amount of Canadian cash in our economy in a 10-year cycle, that literally our dollars devalue to half.
Probably even worse. My God, Lucas, this has been an amazing conversation. A couple more. How would you describe it? You talk about neurodivergence, and I talk about whatever it is I've been diagnosed with in the last couple of months.
It changes,
right? That changes all the time. It does. It certainly does. How would you describe your mental health day to day?
I would suggest that mental health is like exercise. Look at your own physical health. Have you been running lately? Have you jogged? How are you eating this month versus last month? Are you stressed? Are you not stressed? Because all of those factors will affect your physical health. Well, if we know those factors affect our physical health, we already know that they're affecting our mental health. It's just often a lot less obvious to ourselves. So when you ask, what would you say my mental health is today? Incredible. To be honest, probably the best it's been in years.
That's wonderful.
It's the duality. You said it's insane and it's crazy. That's what helps you.
What helps you reset after a tough council meeting or a stressful day? Add that to the mental health day to day. What helps you reset?
Yeah, a couple of things. Frisbee golf.
Frisbee golf. Okay, is that an Oat Goat? You go there.
I do. My home course is actually Newcastle. I play at the Newcastle.
Is it Oat Goat or is it the Lavender Fields that has Frisbee golf?
No, I'll be honest, we're becoming the mecca of Frisbee golf for Canada right now. Northumberland
it's getting more and more popular.
Well, we just hosted the Canadian Open.
That's incredible. Frisbee
and
golf.
We're actually being nominated to be hosting the 2028 World Youths from all around the world. Like, people don't know, 4 of the best 10 courses in Canada are within 30 minutes of Cobourg.
Nice.
So Gummo, the school, they've got Frisbee nets in the back of their schoolyard because the kids are wanting to play it so often. On top of that, the town of Cobourg last year built its first 9-hole course behind the ball diamond. So I do that. And on the other side, I spend time with my 4 young ones. My partner and I, my cohabitating partner and I, have 4 kids between the two of us. 3 are from her previous, 1 is from mine. And so 10,
That's
9,
nice to hear.
yeah, 10, 9, 8, and 6. 2 boys, 2 girls, 2 cats, and a dog. I go from my chaotic 2 business, like mayor market life, to a chaotic home, and I have never been more calm or relaxed.
I was just going to bring that up, is that you definitely are a survivor during chaos. And
You know,
that's not easy.
neurodivergence at its best. We always talk about it in this sort of community, is that
And speaking as neurodivergence as a superpower, not generally just something diagnosable. Like for me, I've been with a mental health condition for at least 32 years, probably longer, but it didn't get flagged until 32 years ago. I'm so impressed with the mayor of Cobourg, Ontario, simply because he does it. And in all of that turmoil and chaos that is going on downtown, it's happening everywhere. And
I think we're making great strides here.
You inherited a lot that people don't talk about. It's not all your fault.
I'd actually argue that none of it's my fault.
maybe everything's my fault. I don't know. What's one small win for Cobourg that you're especially proud of?
I'm especially proud of the community engagement that the change-making nature of my leadership has caused. I promised when I ran that I would create an engaged community. I didn't say how. I didn't tell them all that I might do it through causing controversy and having very controversial, difficult, long overdue discussions. But I'll tell you, look at the attendance at the council meetings in the previous term, look at the attendance now, look at the social engagement, look at the conversations the community is having about standards of care, having conversations about the financial realities of Cobourg, having the conversations like, hey, we can't afford 10% tax increases every year, but we also know costs are going up. So where are we going to cut some services? Because if we don't drop our level of service, and so the fact that the community is having this high level of sort of political, bureaucratic conversations at their dinner table is exactly the kind of community that we need to move in a way that's useful for all. I truly believe
you've got a lot. You turned a lot of people into activists.
Yes, both sides. And I think that's important because it's through discussion and it's through conversation and it's through conflict, professional and respectful conflict, that we find common ground and we find teams that can work together despite differences to actually progress communities and societies in a direction. When we see what's happening to the South, when we see what's happening in Europe, we're seeing exactly what's happening when we stop talking. And this idea
that's a really good quote, by the way.
It's true.
You've opened up the conversation simply by all the chaos that surrounds you.
That's important. And change makers have a role, as do peacemakers, as do generals. And what I mean by that is, as a leader, as a CAO, you're either a peacetime CAO or you're a wartime CAO.
What is CAO?
CAO, like a leader. So I studied a lot of like corporate leadership. So a CEO is usually the head of a corporation. And as I was studying, because I used to run like multi-million-dollar projects and things like that. So I would always study proper leadership techniques, and leadership at that level of a corporation tends to be peacetime or wartime. Classic example to paint a picture, Steve Jobs. Well, when they were starting Apple, you needed a wartime CEO. That's Steve Jobs. He's like that's not peaceful leadership. That is aggressive, chaotic, strong leadership. Well, what happened to Steve Jobs when Apple became the most successful computer brand? They got rid of him. They brought in the new CEO. That was his company. But they knew as a board that that's not the right leadership. They needed a peacetime CEO. Yet when Apple was about to go into business, who'd they bring back? Steve Jobs. Because they were in a wartime survival mode, and Steve Jobs saved the company.
I love your these powerful people you're referring to. I mean, and that's another thing about Tony Robbins, is he always brings up the people he's admired and then the people he's worked with, and the people he admired created Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
And now he works with the people he admired.
And I'm in a very similar situation, and I know we're running out of time, but when you asked my mental health is, I would say my mental health is very incredibly well because of the incredible people I get to work with. I would suggest that when I was an entrepreneur, it was all on me and my partner, but like we were the end. And at
That's
the end
right.
of
The
the
buck
day,
stopped there. Yeah,
and
for
at the
sure.
end of the day, it was just the two of us had each other to kind of communicate with, talk to about, strategize with. And in that role, there is both great responsibility, but also great stress because you don't always have, like, when you're self-reflective and you know where your skill sets start and stop, you're also realizing that you don't have the abilities that you might need as an entrepreneur because there's no one above you, and you can see your own faults and you're like, oh God, what am I going to do now? Also, when you're an entrepreneur and you're just getting started, you're just blessed to have anyone join your team. And you're excited to have anyone jump in at the beginning and really take your vision forward. And so you're willing to bring anyone onto the team and what I've realized is that I'm very good at working with high level professionals at very high level of intellect, as well as I'm really good at working with people who maybe aren't that level professional, but maybe more blue collar. It was my strength.
That's because you listen.
Well, it's also because I'm right in that sweet spot in the middle. And what I mean, that's why I was so successful in the oil and gas industry. I could speak engineer and I could translate to roughneck. And
Roughneck? That's awesome.
Right?
Oil worker.
Oil rig pig or roughneck. And it's because I spent 6 years on the rigs as a ground up worker. I understood that level of conversation, but I also went to school and I'm a bit of a trigonomic function, a math geek. So I spoke just enough engineering to be able to have the engineers and I communicate effectively. And then I turn around and
awesome.
Then I get the actual rig guys to do what the engineers wanted them to. There's not many people who can sort of slide between that. And it all goes back to my early years as a neurodivergent kid who stuck out like a sore thumb, who couldn't fit in. So in my attempt to survive as I'm navigating, puberty, here we are learning how to fit in, masking all of the crazy things that I didn't want to be shown, and learning the ability to sort of chameleon yourself into the group for acceptance, knowing that you're not like that group, but you have to kind of. So subconsciously, as a child, I learned how to communicate like that, and it's now a superpower. And so I'm really fortunate, and I think it really works in the mayor's role too, because I'm surrounded by these incredible professionals, people who are making $150,000 to $250,000 a year, who've got 10, 15, 20 years experience to be able to hold the director's job in a $40 million corporation. Like these people are the best of the best. And I'm
really pleased with when I first met you. I think it was 2016, somewhere around then.
Well, it'll be earlier than that because Rome was born 2000. Yep, no, you're right, 2016.
2016, so it's been almost 10 years, and I've seen you basically graduate through a lot of different processes in your life, as well as I was also at the same point in time facilitating things in my life. And I can't thank you enough for spending your valuable time with a guy like me for a website and a podcast that is still blossoming after a year. And you were one of my key speakers. So thanks, Lucas. And
listen, Brandon, if I can, keep at it, man. And I'm telling you, go listen to some Gary Vee episodes and listen to him what he talks about podcast.
He's on my list.
Brandon,
thanks,
thank
Lucas.
you for the honor of being with you.
Wicked. Thanks so much.
Take care, sir.
SnackableMentalHealth.ca.